Today I'm going to try to draw this corner inside the courtyard of Saint Nicolas Church in Krakow, Poland. And right away I'm sketching in these flower pots so that I don't draw the stairs first, which is what I really desperately want to do. But I know that if I do, when I go back to add these flower pots, I would be drawing over those stair lines to no avail. It's what I really want to do. It's what my eye is drawn to doing first, but I know that it's the wrong move. So flowers first it is. I got into this one pretty quickly, going right for specific details like this flower pots versus the overall shape. And I did this because this one was all about the details. The details are what drew me to the scene, not the structure behind it. So I figured it would be a waste of my time to try to block everything in because it didn't feel like there was much to block in. That being said, I did spend some time beforehand figuring out exactly where to put these stairs in my pocket sketchbook. And I'm glad I did because by starting with anything else, I never gave the stairs enough room. And they would always creep their way off the side of the page. And since that part of the scene, the stairs, was a significant part of my choosing this reference, I had to find a way to accommodate that part of the stairs. If you're curious about the use of my pocket sketchbook, I know I've brought it up a handful of times. It's just a small notebook that I carry around for quick sketches and practice. I use it to get an idea of how I'm going to place things on the paper so that I don't waste time in the beginning of these videos, and so I don't do exactly what I'm talking about, that being shoving the stairs off the left side. I don't do any final stuff in there. Nothing is nice. It's just real. It's a real mess, but it has been an indispensable part of this process. It gives me freedom to mess around and sketch to my heart's content. All that said, I'm curious about how the experts, quote unquote, start their drawings. Do they generally start with the same things depending on the scenario? Or is it just down to personal preference? I have a justification for my starting point here, but it could just be me being ignorant. I wonder if there's an objectively correct starting point. And if so, how much would it even matter? Would a quote-unquote expert be able to start from any part of the drawing and work their way to the same conclusion? I'm really curious about that. I know that blocking in general shapes, big shapes, or shadows versus highlights, like values, is a good rule of thumb. Like I said, I don't know that, but I've heard about it a lot. A lot of people talk about it. But if that's the case, does that mean that that's the best way to begin? Or is it just the most common? Hopefully I'll find out one day. So I sped through this one without accurately taking stock of the proportions of things. For instance, the height of the stairs to the height of this stone wall. The wall should be a lot lower, and I'm just now noticing that it's also pushed back further than it should be. However, I also made the angle of the stairs completely wrong. It's way too steep. So I guess it's all a little wacky. It seems I'm doing this drawing on feeling alone, as I've also drawn twice as many steps as necessary. No, there she is again. But what are you gonna do? I guess count. I could have counted the stairs, whatever. Anyway, and this is just an observation. I could be dead wrong, but I realize here that the simpler, this is my theory, the simpler the drawing, the more important the detail, or better yet, the simpler the reference, the more important the precision. When there's so little to go on, which I didn't recognize when taking this reference. On the contrary, I actually thought there was a lot to go on. But when there's so little to go on, the small things seem to make a really big difference. This drawing, or reference, at least the way that I am attempting to draw it, kind of hinges upon me getting those small things right. If I mess up the stairs a bit, angle the wall wrong, and squiggle in all the foliage, I don't have much else to lift this drawing up. The point is the stairs, the wall, and the foliage. Without those, the whole thing is kind of lost. And I really didn't give that any thought in the moment. So, yeah, I don't end up giving them as much care as they deserve. On that note, this drawing, but specifically the tree that I'm drawing, has me considering purchasing a thicker pen. Not necessarily a marker, like I mentioned the other day, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't remember. But picking up maybe a fine liner with a little bit more presence. I know I'm already getting into buying new tools, and I don't really want to go down that road already, but I don't know. For now, in this drawing and others, I'm finding myself either drawing the edges of something and shading between those two lines, drawing one leading line and going back over it again and again to add thickness, which is what I'm doing here, or I'm just squiggling in, without any barriers, what I want to become one thick line, which I really don't like. But if it's quite a bit thicker than this tree and it's all shadow, I don't really know what else to do. If I could do things like this in one single stroke, I think it would not only make things so much easier for me, but ultimately look much more elegant. I'd have to learn to be responsible with it, because I know this tree, you can see on the bottom, there are some lighter areas on the right side where it's not as much in shadow. But, having something just a little bit thicker, I think would help me out a lot. Anyway, so another thing I've been considering quite a bit, which shows up in my drawings pretty consistently, I'm sure you've noticed, is how to differentiate between textures. Foliage is a good example because from far away, one plant sitting next to another plant looks, it might look similar, but not exactly alike. And I'm unsure of how to draw them slightly differently without drawing, pun intended, too much attention to that differentiation. Unless it's extremely close up, I wouldn't know how to render foliage anyway, even if that. So it's kind of a moot point, but it's something I'd like to learn sooner than later. Another example, possibly an easier one to work out, is building textures, like textures on an actual building, like brick versus stone. Again, I do understand the difference, especially up close, but when they're far away, it's hard for me to fathom how best to differentiate the two. And I love examples, so I guess an even better example would be gravel and grass. Even up close, I don't know what to do with those two things. Say for drawing little, cartoonish blades of grass that poke out intermittently. But from far away, it seems so out of reach at this point. I just want to ignore a lot of that stuff altogether. Especially gravel. I just think about that, and it's so far out of my reach. Even very, very, very up close, it's just a bunch of small rocks, but I know that you would never draw all that. But yeah, so I'm interested in figuring that out. Okay, so this one is not a favorite. There's nothing fantastically awful about it. But it looks like it took me all of 30 seconds and not, let's see, 10 minutes. Um, Aside from the 2 or 3 basic shapes, like the stairs, I guess the stairs, the wall, and the tree, everything else here is texture. And that, it's just something I am slowly working on. It's going to take time, but I'll get there eventually. I'll only bring it up another 1,000 times before I understand it. Anyway, please subscribe. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you taking the time, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks.